G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. Going to go through my Supercoach draft team for 2024. I'll tell you what, Kat, a big weekend it was.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit of it on your social media. But look, before we get into your team, I want to know how this draft day actually goes for you because you've got 14 mates that you play it with?
Yeah, 14 mates. For those that are new to draft or haven't consumed this sort of content before, 14 mates. We go down the south coast of New South Wales to Kiama, beautiful town there. And yeah, we all bring our laptops and whatnot. All 14 of us sit around, have a couple of brewskis, and draft our Supercoach draft team. So the way the draft works, guys, as with like Supercoach Classic, for example, me and Kat might both like Kalen Ponga, for example, in Classic. So we'll both own him. Tim will probably own him too because he does everything that I do. But in draft, Kalen Ponga can only be owned by one person. So if I've got him, it means Kat can't have him or Tim can't have him. So you become very personalised with your team throughout the year, which is super exciting. So you've got to be very careful with who you pick and whatnot. 14 of us going through that. There's an order, 1 to 14. You go through in the first round, and in the second round, pick 14 goes again. So if you're pick 1, you get pick 1 and 28. So you get an absolute gun. But then you have to let a lot of guns go to come back. So the Supercoach draft, I absolutely love it. And if you guys out there can get your mates to do it, I would highly advise it, Kat. It's unreal.
That sounds very fun. So that being said, what pick did you end up with in the end?
Yeah, so we have challenges to decide our draft pick. I ended up at pick number 8. Now, Kat, you may remember that before, the first challenge I did okay in. The second challenge I did all right in. I was sitting at about 4th overall after that. Then the third challenge that we had was a couple of weeks ago, and it was a gambling challenge. And you know me, I just went, fuck it. I want to try and win this thing. I went all in. I came up absolute duck eggs. So came dead last in that one. So the way that it works for each challenge was that the person that came first got 14 points. The person that came last got 1 point. So when you come last, it's a pretty big kick in the dick. So when I came last, that dropped me pretty heavily. It was rattle stations. And then we had 2 challenges left on draft day. It was actually really done by the guy the guy that wins the comp last year, he gets to pick the challenges for that season. And the challenges were really good. They were sort of all chance, but they were fun. Anyway, one challenge that he picked out was that you had to pick a song that you know well, right? Now, you know me, not a big music guy. This will shock all of you out there beyond belief, but not a great singer either, and even worse dancer. So
many people are just shocked right now.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I'm sure it'll rattle many. So the song that I picked was, have a guess.
You know, I have crickets.
When he asked me, I had crickets too.
Because I don't think you and I have ever spoken about music.
I don't think we ever will. This is probably peak of our music conversation. So I went the one song that I probably know from start to finish, which is Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. Great song.
Very appropriate.
Very appropriate. It's funny, we all had to message the guy what song we wanted. And he said if there's any double ups, which there probably won't be, but if there is, the person that says it first will get it. Anyway, the first 2 texts he got was me asking for The Gambler and then another guy asking for The Gambler. Unbelievable. Yeah. So thank God I got him first because it's literally the only song I know. So there was a bit of head noise heading into draft day. I was like, my God, if I have to sing, dance, do anything, I'm in all sorts. I might just anxiety myself into pick 14. Anyway, it turns out all he did was put it in a playlist and shuffle it. And we went in that order. So very quick, very easy, thankfully. But my song finished 11th out of 14th. So
okay.
Wasn't good. So collected, I think, 3 points or 4 points for that challenge. And that came to the last challenge. And I was sitting in 12th place. And I was thinking, well, this is fucked. And at that point, I was sort of like, well, do I throw the last challenge to get pick 14 because then I'll get back-to-back picks? And I had a plan for that. Or do I go for it? And I thought, you know what, let's just go for it and let's see what happens. So the last challenge was a really interesting one. We went down to the beach at Kiama, all 14 of us. My mate Steve, who was in charge, he put down like a crate and that was the starting point. And he said to the commissioner of our league, Cozzy, he said, pick a number between 100 and 300. And he picked, I think it was 187. So what we had to do without any technology was walk out the sand and you had to put your marker where you thought 187 metres was. it was very interesting.
The creativity of these.
Yeah, it was actually very
astounding.
creative. I thought it was great. So the first guy put his down and I thought, I think that's short. I think we're short of 187. I think we're in the ballpark. The hard thing is too, like, because it's sand, it's like water. It's so hard to measure.
Yeah.
Like when it's grass or concrete, it's sort of a little bit easier to vibe. Sand just fucked. Like it was insane. Anyway, one of the boys actually nailed 187, which was very impressive.
Wow.
It was incredible. And I was about 185. So I either got second or third in that challenge. So that one was double points as well.
Okay.
So that boosted me right back up. So I ended up finishing 8th, which
8 is very solid.
8's very solid. Yeah. 8's solid. So if you think about like Supercoach draft and you know the best Supercoach players in the game, there's probably 7 absolute guns. And then there's pick 8, which I thought I'll probably be able to get Ryan Pappenhausen. And he's the guy that I can gamble on. I think he's the one most likely out of the 7 to jump into the 7 if he goal kicks throughout the year and whatnot, which obviously the trial was 2 nights before and he didn't goal kick. So there was a bit of risk in that, but I thought, you know what, Pappy's going to be my guy. And we kicked off draft and one of my good mates, Filipino, he took Pappy at number 5. So it shifted everything. He took the big gamble, which I thought was I actually back it. I like that approach because he's trying to win it. He's not just trying to be relevant.
Were you pretty rattled by that?
No, I was actually stoked with it because Pappy was a gamble and there were 7 other dudes I would have been happy to take. So essentially what that meant when he took Pappy, it meant that I was either going to get Drinky or Latrell.
Love it.
Love it. Yeah, it was a very good spot to be in. I would have rather Drinky. And I knew the guy in front of me is a South fan, so I reckon he'll go Latrell Amon, and thankfully he did. Got Scott Drinkwater. So
pick 1, Scott Drinkwater.
Yes, pick 1, Scotty Drink Bloke. Very, very happy with that. I've actually had him a few times throughout the years. I drafted him a couple of years ago, like round 10, and he absolutely killed it for me. He ended up being a top 20 player. So good omens around that. If you have a look at Scotty Drinkwater's scores, the Cowboys, they started really slow last year, Kat, and then back into the season they did really well. If you actually have a look over the last 12 weeks of last season, which is a pretty good sample size, Drinkwater averaged 100 points.
Wow.
So if the Cowboys can just keep their shit together and just be somewhat relevant, I think I'm in a good spot. The other big advantage of Drinky is that our grand finals played in round 27. So I always draft a team for round 27. Assume I'm going to be there and then give yourself the best hope to win it. He plays the Canterbury Bulldogs that week.
Oh, odds are in your favour.
Odds are in my favour, but this is where it's a very delicate balancing act, Kat, that you've got to... Yes, the odds are in my favour, but if the Cowboys have a great season and they finish top 4, they might rest players that week.
Yes, of course.
So this is something I've got to keep in mind. The other disadvantage is that he actually has a bye in round 25. So if I make the top 4 and I win week 1, it means I'll have that week off. So that's my aim. I have to finish top 4.
Okay.
I have to win week 1 because then that bye doesn't matter. Because if I have to play round 25 and it will be a must-win game if I'm playing that week, I'll be without Drinky, which will really be tough.
It will be tough for you. And without giving too much away, I've noticed you've got a few other Cowboys on the side as well. So how does that go for you bye weeks, having a few from the same team?
Yeah. We'll talk about pick number 2 in a moment, but I had a guy I was really high on who was from the Cowboys, so I almost picked and I thought, no, it's too much of a gamble if you can't go all eggs in. But yes, that is something I've got to be aware of, that I did get a couple of Cowboys. So it is something I have got to be aware of, and it could fist me, no doubt about it. But fingers crossed, we finished top 4. We've been in this comp for 10 years. We finished top 4 9 times, Kat. So I'm hoping I can keep that form up.
Wow.
And then hopefully we can avoid that bye round, which is keeping me awake at night.
Yeah, well, let's move on to pick 2 so that you can get some sleep. I really like this one. I really like pick 2.
Yeah, Greg Marzhew. Our league is a captain's league, so you need your high ceiling players. I said to you before that there was a player I was looking at. It was Val Holmes. I think he's in for a huge season. But the problem is that if I go Val Holmes, I've got my 2 highest scoring players in the same team, which is good, but it means that I can't vice captain and captain one of them. So you're better off to spread it out, I think. If it was 2 Penrith players and I was 100% confident they were going to kill it this year, maybe it's a little bit different, but the Cowboys, a little bit of unknown there realistically. So, yeah, Greg Marzhew, I've said it on a number of occasions. I think that Kalen Ponga is going to absolutely fucking brain it this year. I think he wins a Dalian medal again this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the top Supercoach player at the end of the season. And if KP is firing, we know that Greg Marzhew is going to be firing. So another guy that I'm very happy to have as a captain option. Cowboys and the Newcastle Knights, two good teams that I think play finals footy. But are they two teams that I think in round 27 they're going to be so far in front that they can rest guys? Probably not.
Yeah.
So that's also part of my thinking around that grand final week. So Marzhew, very happy to have him. I think Kalen Ponga just lays tries on for him all season. And if you have a look at Marzhew's scores, even when he's not scoring tries, he scores about 40 to 50 points a week, which is solid. It's not a train wreck, but he's got those ceilings of, 100 plus. And, the guys that picked straight after me, they went Dill Brown, Daly Cherry Evans in round one. Personally, I would rather have Marzhew over those guys because he's got that higher ceiling. He's not as consistent, but I am all about chasing the highest ceiling that you can.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Marzhew is an obvious one.
A week could come around and he absolutely smashes it for you, and that could be your point of difference that week.
100%. And, Dill Brown, for example, he'll score 80 every single week, which will be great. But I just don't think he has those 150s in him. And I would rather gamble on one of Drinky or Marzhew going 150.
I rate it. So pick 3. Talk us through Briton Nikora.
Yeah, Briton Nikora. I've had him a couple of times over the years. Big fan of him. I already had 2 ceiling players, so I needed a guy to just sort of solidify a little bit. Our mates over at the Weekly Rubdown always have a very good stat that of the I think it's something like of the top 50 players every year, about 40% of them are second row forwards. So you need to have a good one. So I was very happy to get him. The thing I like about Briton Nikora is that he will score high even when he doesn't score tries. But outside Nico Hines, he scores a fuckload of tries. So very happy to have him. I think he's sort of I think he's close to being the best back rower in rugby league. I think people would straight away go Oates for feeders, these sort of guys, which is fair. But I think Nikora's probably the most consistent of them all. Doesn't tend to have injuries too, which I really like, which is important in draft league. So, yeah, Briton, I was very happy to get him there. And if you can get a guy outside Nico Hines, it's pretty good real estate.
No, it's a good strategy play there for sure. And he, you have brought him up a couple of times before. He's definitely a good shout. And I think once again, a good pod for you. Let's talk Zach Lomax, because you sent me a text the other day when they were playing or ahead of their game, wondering if he was going to have that kicking role in this Dragon side.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away.
No, we can't give too much away either. But that's a little private story that was hilarious. Shout out to you know who you are. And I know you'll be watching too. So Zach Lomax, we've spoken about him a lot. I believe he will end up being the Dragons fullback. On the weekend in the Charity Shield, he did not play fullback, but Tyrell Sloan, I just don't think it can possibly work. The poor bastard, he's just having a tough gig. I think right now, Tyrell Sloan's probably not in the right headspace to be an NRL fullback, and I think they're doing him a disservice to keep on playing him there. I think he needs a spell, or maybe turn him into a winger. It just isn't working, and I don't think it's going to work. Respectfully to Sloan, he's a very supremely talented footballer, but I just don't think he's an NRL fullback. So I think it's a matter of time until Zach Lomax moves to fullback. I was a little bit nervous whether he was going to keep the goal kicking, and obviously Kyle Flanagan's joined the Dragons, who hits them at a pretty high click. And of course, watching that Charity Shield for those playing at home, as you would know, it took like 30 minutes for a fucking try to be scored. I couldn't believe it. And then when they did score the try, I forget who scored it, but Kyle Flanagan was the first guy there to hug him. And when the guys, I can't remember who scored, but when he scored, he stood up and he dropped the ball and he hugged Kyle Flanagan. And I was just zoned in watching Flano to see if he'd pick up the football or not. And thankfully, Flano walked away. So Lomax came in and kicked it, which was great. And then as the game unfolded, like from a very selfish Supercoach point of view, Sloan just kept making mistakes. And I thought, okay, this is great for Lomax. So I'm hoping we'll get team list Tuesday this afternoon. I'm really hoping that Lomax is given an opportunity at fullback. A guy that averages like 60 odd the last few years anyway, wildly talented in a team that's not going well. If he can just get put into that fullback role, I think it could be one of the better draft picks of the year. I think he could excel into that sort of top 20, top 30 area. So you'll notice with all my guys, Kat, they are all guys that have on a bad day they'll score 40 to 50, but they've all got huge upside to blow you away at any given moment. So it's always my strategy in draft leagues, but he's probably the biggest gamble of them all because he's in the Dragons, he's in a shit team. Bit of a punt there.
Yeah, I think the to your point, the biggest challenge there is the team that he's playing for. But if anyone is going to perform in that side, Zach Lomax is the one.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now your next two are from the Cowboys. This is what we were referring to earlier. So your pick 5 and 6, Reuben Cotter.
Yeah, I absolutely love Reuben Cotter, as you all know. Obviously had the Queensland call a couple of years ago. Huge fan of Reuben Cotter. I'll be honest with you, this is the one that I think I dropped the ball in.
Oh, really?
This pick here. Yeah. Reuben Cotter didn't do too well last year, Supercoach-wise. I tend to have one draft pick a year where I get there and I just sort of go, fuck, I don't know who the best option is here. I don't know which direction is the way to go here. Reuben Cotter, I sort of thought, you know what, I'm going to need the Cowboys to have a good season. He's just been given the captaincy. But probably the thing that pushed me over the edge was the dual position.
Yeah.
Having that is massive. The other thing I like about Reuben Cotter is, and my rule is always in draft comps, Cat, do not pick front row forwards until the end because they're just shit. They don't score you points. They all get 40. Unless your name's Payne Haas, you're all getting fucking 40, and I don't care. But because Reuben Cotter was dual position, it allowed me to sort of pick a second rower who can score big if he's having a good year, but put him in the front row to allow me to pick other second row forward. So Reuben Cotter, I don't think it's a bad pick, but he is. If I had to pick one that I probably regret a little bit, it might be Reuben Cotter. But if he has a bounce back season, he could average 60 and I'm flying all of a sudden. And as you guys know, I've always been a huge Cotter fan, so I enjoy watching him play. Reuben Cotter at 5. 6 was interesting. So Kat, in our competition, because there's 14 guys, if you ever think about, like, for example, halfbacks in rugby league, there's 17 halfbacks that run out every week. Yeah. Realistically, it's probably 7 good ones. Let's be honest here. 5'8", very similar. 17 5'8" that run out every week. There's probably 8 or 9 good ones. Supercoach-wise, there's like 3 fucking good ones. And what I see a lot of guys do in my comp is they rush to get these positions that are hard to get. And the way that I think is, like, I don't care about the position. I care about the points. So I don't tend, so hooker, halfback, 5'8", I always tend just to leave one of them until the end. And normally it's hooker. Usually I just don't draft a hooker because I don't think they have enough upside. Yeah. I looked up at round 6 and in my opinion, a top 5 hooker was still sitting there, Reece Robson. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? I need the Cowboys to do good, to do well with Drinky. Reece Robson is still sitting there. Why not fill one of those spots now? Take a guy that I think is a good footballer. So Reece Robson's a guy I was not high on at all. People have actually, in 2022, Reece Robson killed it. Everyone wanted him in Supercoach 23, and I sort of said he's not as good as he looked last year. I'm very confident in saying that. He'll be a 55 average guy. He averaged around about the 55 mark last year because he just stopped scoring tries. But at round 6 to lock up a hooker who averages around 55, I just thought the value there was too good. So sort of went off track there a little bit with my usual plan, but I think it turned out to be the right one.
I really like it. The game that we don't talk about that I used to play.
Yes.
Yeah, that other game. He was always a go-to for me for that role, at least for the second option for that position.
And if you have a look at hooker, like Harry Grant's the top hooker pick. Yeah. Sure, he does well, but like he's not playing 80 minutes. The next hooker that was picked was Damien Cook, which I never would have gone near. And my mail is that Peter Mamazelis is going to be on the bench for Vegas. So Damien Cook, I don't think he's going to play 80 minutes. All of a sudden, I'd probably I'm pretty confident Reece Robson plays 80 minutes. Like they carried Jake Granville all last year and never played him at hooker.
100%. He's also that guy that for unless there's a reason not to, he's going to play the 80 minutes.
Yeah. So Reece Robson at pick 6, if he can average 55, I reckon a guy like Damien Cook probably averages 65 odd this year. I think he regresses a little bit with limited minutes. I'm very, very happy with where I got Reece Robson.
Yeah, I really, really rate it. Okay, let's talk about pick 7, Josh Curran.
All right, so this is where the way that I see draft and the way that I do it, Kat, I always get to the end of the season and I tend to have about 8 guys that I drafted. So normally they are my top 6 picks, and then I'll normally get 2 smokies that I'm happy with throughout the year. So once I get past that pick 6, and if I'm happy with my top 6 guys, that's where a lot of guys sort of get to round 10 and they go, let's start to take some gambles. Yeah. I go, nah, fuck it. I'm going to go in round 7. I'm going to take the earlier gambles, but I'm going to get the guys that I actually want.
Yeah.
Not the guys that happen to be left there.
Yeah.
So this is my first one, Josh Curran. I believe at the Canterbury Bulldogs he's going to play 13. I think he has so much untapped potential. Mm-hmm. It is just insane. And I think the Canterbury Bulldogs, they're lacking a lot of middle forwards. If there's any injuries in this team in any way, shape or form, he will be the guy that gets more minutes straight away. I think Josh Curran could be a really, really good pick. I'll be honest, on Thursday night when I watched Jamin Salmon play 13, he looked fucking unreal. I didn't love that. But I don't think the Canterbury Bulldogs have enough depth to not play Josh Curran for good minutes.
No. And the way that he played at the Warriors, he will bring that same energy to the Bulldogs, and that's exactly what they need.
Yeah.
They need the depth. They need the experience of someone like Josh Curran as well. So I think he'll get the time.
He's got a lot of upside in his game too. I remember watching Curran when he was playing for fucking Wyong in reserve grade years ago. I've always really liked him. He's got a lot of upside. He can, I think as well that if anything was to happen to Viliame Kikau or Jacob Preston, he'd move straight to the edge. Mm-hmm. And he'd be an 80-minute guy immediately. And I reckon there's every chance he plays 50 minutes in the middle and then they move him to the left edge and take Kikau off for a break because I don't think Kikau can do 80. And then they move Salmon to 13. So I reckon Curran could be a really good pick. Bit of a gamble. And when you're talking, he's not in a great team, but when you're talking forwards, when you're not in a great team, you tend to make a lot of fucking tackles.
Yeah.
Which is where he's going to stack up a lot of points there. Yeah. So happy with Curran.
100%. Now, I love this pick because this is a player that you have spoken endlessly about. A little CBA of yours. Talk us through pick 8.
Yeah, Seal Wong. I was always going to draft him. It was funny. I drafted him round 8 and a few of the boys in the room turned to me and go, we thought you'd draft him earlier. I went, yep, that's fair. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit nervous about this pick to start the season. But I think by the end of the year, Seal Wong, whether it be through injuries or just form on loan, I think he will be an 80-minute back row for the Roosters. So a bit of a long-term play. They had their first trial the other day, Kat, and they started with Satili Tupanura on the left, Nat Butcher on the right, and then I sort of thought, okay, Satili was injured last year. They're just giving him an opportunity. Then they moved Satili into the middle, and I thought, okay, they'll give Wong an opportunity on the left. They actually gave it to Angus Crichton. And then Wong didn't get an opportunity on the right until Nat Butcher went off. So it's not looking great right now, if I'm being completely honest. But I think long-term wise, I think he's got potential to be one of the best 2RFs in Supercoach. He's in a team that's going to be decent, I think.
Yeah.
So he's one of my gambles I'm happy to take, and he's a classic. Probably could have waited 2 more rounds, but I didn't want to risk letting any other fucker get him.
No, and I think it goes back to you always saying that at the end of the day, you love to get a player that you enjoy watching.
Yes.
So why not take the punt on that one? All right, pick 9.
Pick 9.
For your first Broncos player.
Yeah, the big horse, Corey Oates. I have heard very good things out of Brisbane about Corey Oates. I think that he's going to have a real resurgent season. When you consider that he wasn't in the Broncos team at the back end of last season, they went to a grand final. He wasn't in the side. And then here we are in the preseason and Billy Slater selected him in his Maroon squad. That says a lot to me.
Yeah, definitely.
You can even, and I know it sounds stupid, but fuck, jump on Corey Oates' Instagram and have a look at him. He is looking fit as a fiddle. Corey Oates is a guy that he's actually spoken about it before, that when he was younger, it all came very easy to him. He already had the size, he had the speed, and he didn't really work that hard at it. Like this is his words, not mine. He's spoken about it, that he didn't work overly hard at his game and whatnot. It all just sort of came to him, and he was, as he's got older, he sort of regretted not taking care of his body and everything when he was younger. I've never seen him looking this fit.
Wow.
I think he's been punched in the face last year, missed out on a Broncos grand final, missed out on that incredible run. I reckon he's in for a huge bounce back this year. And the best thing about Corey Oates, for Supercoach-wise, he takes a lot of hit-ups coming out of his own head. He's a big, rangy thing, so he tends to break a lot of tackles. He's the sort of CTW that can score 40 a week without scoring a try. And in that Broncos team, outside Ezra Mam and Selwyn Cobbo, my guy's going to score tries, not to mention Reece Walsh. So I was very happy. We turned on the trial, and guess who scored the first try?
Oh,
As Kempy calls him, Oates McGoats. So very, very happy to have Corey Oates.
I think that sounds like a fantastic pick for you. And in that same CTW position, your pick 10 is Daniel Tupou. And we have been talking about where he's going to fit into this Roosters side, because with the arrival of Dom Young and everything, we're kind of looking at how that side might be changing. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, as I said, I was very excited to see Corey Oates score the first try for the Broncos, and Daniel Tupou scored 2 tries on the weekend. And Daniel Tupou scored 2 tries outside of our boy, Billy Smith, who I think has got that left centre spot wrapped up. The guy, it was funny, the guy, when I drafted Daniel Tupou, one of the boys that had him last year turned to me and said, he's going to be a fucking nightmare. And I said, no, he won't, because Suolii's not going to be inside him. And he went, how do you know that? I went, trust me, Billy Smith's going to play centre. Anyway, we then got to the trial and Billy Smith played centre and he was offloading at will.
Yeah.
So if Suolii did win that left centre spot, that'd be a fucking nightmare. We do wish him all the very best, obviously, but the other thing that helped me was that Dom Young got injured the other day.
Yeah.
So it meant that Suolii has to play right wing. So for my Supercoach team, the dominoes sort of fell my way there, but I'm very confident in saying Billy Smith was going to be the left centre anyway. So to get Daniel Tupou and Corey Oates, 2 CTWs, round 9 and 10, they are both guys that I genuinely think can be top 20 CTWs this year. Absolutely stoked with it. Oh, fuck, I can see the next pick coming.
Yes. Now, this is one that you've been very excited about as well. Very excited. I feel like you may as well just rename the whole studio.
Yeah.
The Drew Hutchison studio. But, yeah, you love this guy and obviously a Bulldogs pick as well. Talk us through this one for you.
Yeah, it's wild to think I could be happy with drafting a Bulldogs halfback. But I really like Hutcho. What I like about him, Supercoach-wise, is that he gets through a lot of base stats. When he's playing halfback, there's some games where he bases like 40 and 50 points. It's fucking crazy. I really like Hutcho. Toby Sexton's a very good player. I think when we had Winston on a few weeks ago, I said I would love to see Hutcho at halfback.
You did
I think
say
he's
that.
more suited to that team. I think he's more suited to being a Bulldog as well. The Bulldogs, they scored more points in the second half with Sexton the other night, I think, but I thought they looked better with Hutcho at halfback. And I got a little word from Canterbury that he will be the halfback. So, and this is where you get to the back end of the draft, and was there better players available than Hutcho? Bloody oath. But there was very few halfbacks left.
Yeah.
And maybe I went a little bit early on Hutcho. I think it surprised a few people in the room. The other beauty of Hutchison is that he's halfback / CTW. So if I can find another halfback throughout the year, I can play Hutcho somewhere else. And honestly, with the rest of my team and the upside I've got, I don't need big points at halfback. I just need to not get 10.
Yeah.
If I can get 30 to 50 every week, that's all I need at halfback. I just don't need a bed shit at halfback, which is all I was looking for. Hutcho does a job for me there. Hopefully he can hold on to that spot throughout the year. I don't think Canterbury are going to do well, but I think Hutcho can play a good role there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's capitalizing on that individual performance too, because these Bulldogs are going to come in there and really try so hard to be better than last year. And
Yes.
I mean, the bar is low.
Yeah, the bar is low.
The bar is low, but I think there's a lot to be said for what they're going to do with that. Now, pick 12, I love this one because I'm just such a Trbojevic fan, but Ben Trbojevic.
Yeah. As I said, once I get past pick 7, I like to take a few gambles. Burbo is firming to play on that left edge. It sounds to me like Josh Schuster will not be going to Vegas.
I think they already said he's not.
They've ruled him out, have they? Yep, makes sense. So Burbo, I believe, will start on that left edge. He's looked $1 million in the preseason. For all the shit people want to give Luke Brooks and whatnot, fuck, he puts his back rowers in good spots. He always has, and it's the one thing that he's always done really well. The thing I like about Burbo in that Manly side is he's got Brooks putting him in good spots, and whenever they come down that left edge and when they're all fit, looming behind him is going to be Turbo, and all our eyes are always going to be on him. It's going to open so many opportunities for Burbo. The gamble with Burbo is the injuries.
Yeah.
My guy just can't stay fucking fit. I hope this is the year it comes together. And if it does, Burbo could honestly be one of the best draft picks of the year at pick 12. The other beauty of Burbo, seemingly everyone got their jewels taken off him this year. He kept his for whatever fucking reason. Doesn't deserve it, but we're going to take it. So I could plug him at CTW or 2RF and solve a heap of problems for me. So injury is my biggest concern. Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out.
We will. Just stay fit and healthy, Burbo, please. All right, pick 13, Kai Pearce-Paul. This is another player that you have mentioned quite a few times.
Yeah, Kai Pearce-Paul, I had got wind that Tyson Brazil was going to play left edge at the start of the season, at the start of the preseason. From what I've gathered, Kai Pearce-Paul has been so impressive that they moved away from that. I've spoken to Jacko Hastings about Kai Pearce-Paul. I know that he rates him very, very highly. Jacko will obviously be the left edge half. So I went in just Saturday very confident about Kai Pearce-Paul that I would definitely get him and I'd take a gamble on him. I actually thought I'd go a little bit earlier than this. But the way that the draft played out, I sort of got a vibe that he was going to be sitting there for a while. Then literally as I was making this pick, I'm sitting there watching the Newcastle Knights on TV and Dylan Lucas scored 2 tries playing left edge back row. Dylan Lucas is an absolute fucking gun. I'm a little bit nervous about whether Kai Pearce-Paul gets this jersey. What I think will happen, and to be fair, Kai Pearce-Paul, he'll play in the Knights trial this weekend. So he's got his chance to respond. What I think will happen is that Kai Pearce-Paul and Dylan Lucas are actually going to share minutes. I reckon one will come off the bench, one will start. So this one's going to be a bit of a painful watch to start. But I do believe that as Kai Pearce-Paul gets more and more used to the NRL, I think he can win that spot. I know he's got the trust of Jackson Hastings, so I'm hoping that can push him into that spot. And if he does, I think there's big upside there. And as I said with Greg Marzhew, if you can get a slice of that left edge of Newcastle, thanks for coming. So big gamble here, Kai Pearce-Paul. Don't know how it plays out. Kind of wish Dylan Lucas didn't exist, but he does. And he's very fucking talented. So we'll see how we go. But as I said, you get to the end of the season and you normally have about 6 to 8 of the 18 you drafted. If Kai Pearce-Paul is one of them, great. If he's not, so be it.
So be it. Yeah, I really enjoyed watching that Knights preseason game as well. They played very well. All right, pick 14, Bud Sullivan. I like this one.
Yeah, you do?
I like this. I think I've mentioned to you before that I'm quite excited about Bud at Tigers because I think he's, always had so much potential at Dragons. But granted, it's another side that's on the up. You know, they've got a lot of work to do, but I think he's young and he's got a lot of determination.
Yeah, look, Bud, by this point, very few 5'8s left. And there was another 5'8 that I think this pick, I had Braden Trindle locked. I was going to grab him. And then I think someone else picked him. And I was like, okay, do I just fuck off 5'8 and move on? And then I thought, you know what? Bud Sullivan, he's dual position. It's handy to have. I think the Tigers improve. They came last year, so I think they improve. How much they improve, I don't know. I've always really liked Bud. Yeah. The thing with Bud in Supercoach is that he either scores 18 or 80. And I hate having those players in my team.
Yeah.
But when you get dual position and, I sat there and I thought, fuck, this isn't Bud Sullivan that I'm hoping Tim Sheens can get the best out of him or Michael Maguire. It's Benji Marshall.
Yeah. It's a different Bud.
surely if anyone's going to get something out of Bud, it's Benji. He's got a point to prove. And I just thought, you know what, he's dual position. The beauty of him being dual position is that I can, if it works out, it means that I'm looking for a halfback or a 5'8" then. That's assuming if Hutcho doesn't work out. Instead of just locking in a halfback or a 5'8" that I don't like, at least if he... And quite often I take picks, Kat, that I don't think they're going to work out, but I get a lot of things wrong as well. People only talk about the things I get right. I get a lot of things wrong as well. And if Bud Sullivan happens that I get him wrong, I've got a dual position guy that's going to absolutely fly. So...
Exactly.
Left halfback and 5'8" till very late. I'm actually okay with what I came out with.
I don't think that that's a bad pick at all. But once again, I could be very wrong.
It's a gamble. It is a gamble.
It is a gamble, definitely.
Yeah. And I think when you're talking halfbacks and 5'8" and Supercoach, you're always comparing them to, they're no Cleary, they're no Hines, these sort of guys. But yeah, I'm happy to watch Bud. He's exciting to watch. I thought he looked good on the weekend in his trial. I watched him very closely. I think Aiden Caesar's going to be really good for him. And I think the thing that I love most about Bud is that it's not a contract year for Bud, but it's a year, hey, do you want to play with Jerome Lua or not? Are you the guy?
Yeah.
So he's got something to prove this year, which excites me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that. All right, let's talk pick 15. You have Enari Tuala.
Yeah, Enari Tuala, a guy that's been at the Newcastle Knights for a minute, sort of been in and out of first grade the entire time. My mail is that Tuala will win the right wing spot. That was obviously on Saturday that I had that mail. Since then, the great Barry Toohey, who's have you heard the name Barry Toohey?
I have.
Yeah, so he's like the main guy to get Goss out of at the Newcastle Knights. He's mentioned that Enari Tuala has won that right wing spot. So Mail was on the money, thankfully. Took him pick 15. Kat, as you would know, the leading try scorer in the NRL last year was Dom Young. Do I think Enari Tuala is Dom Young? No, I do not. But if I can get a guy at pick 15 who plays right wing for the Newcastle Knights outside Dan Gagai, where the top try scorer was last year, thanks for coming.
Yeah, I mean, they know how to get a ball out to that right wing.
Yeah. So we'll take that, which, I think there's every chance round one I end up with both Newcastle Knights wingers and with KP feeding them pill. I love that. The other beauty of this is that if I was playing the Newcastle Knights, the last person in the fucking world I'd want to kick the ball to is Greg Marzhew. So who am I going to kick the ball to?
The other side.
Tuala. So I think he'll collect a lot of base stats, but thankfully Greg's not a lazy bastard, so he'll run over there to get hit up still. Yeah. So I like that. And if I'm the Newcastle Knights, my fullback who my entire fucking future and franchise relies on, I'm probably telling him, hey, don't take as many tough carries out of your own end. Let your wingers do the work.
Some good strategy there once again from you, Guru. All right, let's talk pick 16. I like this. Actually, it's your first Raiders pick as well.
Yeah.
Morgan Smithies.
Yeah, coming over from England. I watched, and I spoke about this on the show a couple of weeks ago. I think you were here when I was talking about it with Tim. I watched a couple of clips of Morgan Smithies a few weeks ago. Workhorse, but I just thought this guy has no upside. Can't pass a football, can't offload. We went to a Ricky Stewart luncheon a few weeks ago. So obviously a lot of Raiders admin and stuff were there, and Tim obviously knows quite a few of them through Sam and whatnot. So I was having beers with them and talking about them, and mate, they would not fucking shut up about this Morgan Smithies.
Wow.
They would not shut up about him. And Kat, it took me back to about 5 years ago. I was sitting in the same spot I was sitting in draft day, and there was this guy that was on the board sitting there who was come from England that was a bit of an unknown. His name was John Bateman. Mm-hmm. And all I'd done is looked at him and thought, you're too small. You won't make it in the NRL. And then I thought, you know what? He's CTW/2RF. He's going to play in the forward pack. I think he's not going to be good, but let's take a gamble on me being wrong. And I picked up John Bateman. He averaged 70 in the CTWs that year and was sort of a top 10 player. So
wow.
I'm always happy to take a gamble on the fact that I could be wrong. From what I've heard from all these Raiders guys, Morgan Smithies is absolutely killing it down there. I was doing a bit of research the day before draft day on him because they started to tickle my interest. He's had a couple, like I think he owns the record in Super League for the most tackles ever made in a game.
Wow.
There was a game there where he made 62 tackles and he had 20 hit ups. So that's like a 100-point game in Supercoach. Is he going to do that every week? No, of course not. But I don't know. I get the John Bateman feels about this guy. And if a guy comes down there and he's tough as nails, he's going to make more tackles than anyone. Ricky Stewart, 101.
Yeah.
He loves fucking battlers that'll just put their head where most wouldn't put their foot. So Morgan Smithies, I am actually really excited about him now. I think at pick 16, he's got potential to be my best pick of all. I reckon there's a chance he ends up in the front row, which means he might get dual position.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. Look, I mean, if they're talking about him at the Raiders luncheon,
Tell me about it.
got to be a good sign, surely. All right, it's your fourth Cowboy pick, comes in at 17. And this is another player that you've spoken about a lot. And I think Timmy's spoken about a lot too. Kyle Feldt.
Yeah, Donnie came in the other day and we had a pretty intense conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Donnie, who basically was writing a love letter to Kyle Feldt that entire episode.
I was not writing a love letter to Kyle Feldt. Kyle Feldt has been a great Cowboys player for a very long time. He's obviously come up with some of the, in my opinion, he's probably scored the biggest try in rugby league history in 2015 grand final. He's been a tremendous player for a long time. Me right now, I would not pick Kyle Feldt in the Cowboys team. I would go for Semi Valame. And to be honest with you, his trial form against a pretty much full-strength Broncos side last week reflects that. But I think the Cowboys, there's every chance they go Kyle Feldt. Potentially for the reasons that Donnie spoke about the other day. I think he's 2 tries away from Cowboys record. He's an experienced guy. I'm hoping he has a bounce back. The only reason why I picked Kyle Feldt is because it was pick 17 and I have Scott Drinkwater. Scott Drinkwater scores so many points throwing cutout passes to his wingers. If I didn't have Drinkwater, I wouldn't have even looked at Kyle Feldt. I'm really not a big Kyle Feldt fan, but you got to give the guy credit. He knows how to score a fucking try. I think it'll be Semi Valame. If I'm wrong and it's Scott Drinkwater and it's Kyle Feldt, absolutely stoked. I solely picked him because I have Scott Drinkwater.
Well, one thing we can guarantee is Donnie is very happy up in North Queensland knowing that is your draft pick.
I'm really not looking forward to hearing from him. He's a draft guy too, so he'll be watching this for sure. So shout out to you, Donnie, you prick.
Yeah. Wasn't he? I think Kyle Feldt will be Donnie's first pick.
He'd be right up there with them. Yeah.
All right, let's talk your 18th pick, the last one. And this is another player that you spoke a lot about. Very exciting, great performance in the trials as well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about him.
In a Supercoach draft comp, when you get down to your last pick, Kat, like you pick players and you put them into positions and then you put them on the bench. So what I ended up with was the only position I had available was front row forward.
Yeah.
And I leave that to the end because I don't give a fuck about front row forwards. So it was very grim when we'd already picked 600 players and then the only players I could pick were front row forwards and they were all benchies and shit.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? He did well in the trial the other day. He was about 3 times bigger than I thought he was. He was enormous, Sam Hughes. And I just thought, Bulldogs, their middles are just shithouse.
Yeah.
They have no one. I think he'll play decent minutes. Almost scored a try the other night just because he's a big body close to the line. I'm not expecting him to score too many tries, but I just thought, you know what? There was about 90 front row forwards for me to pick from, and I thought they were all pretty shit. Sam Hughes has every potential to be shit as well, but I thought, you know what? Why not take the unknown? Phil Gould likes him. They're short on middles. All I want from my front row forwards, just score me 40 points. Score me 40 points and don't be a pain in my ass. That's all I want. So Sam Hughes, pick 18. See how we go. Every chance he's not in my team by week 2. But that's the point of draft, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
it is true.
If he can just not be a pain in my ass, sure, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, 18th pick. You work with what you've got at that point.
Yeah.
And I think, once again, based on the conversations you've had, I think it's a good pick, one to watch anyway. But that's your team. Yeah,
pretty happy with it. Those that, tune into the draft content every year, when I got my team last year, Kat, I took a lot of gambles. I took a lot of gambles and my team looked awful in week 1 and I copped it on social media relentlessly. And I just sort of said, look, just give me 6 weeks. Just let some things fall into place. We'll see how we go. I drafted Jermaine Osako, pick 17. He ended up the best CTW of the competition. Drafted Cody Walker. Everyone bagged that. He had a fantastic season. I ended up trading him for Kalen Ponga, so that didn't work out too badly for me. Ended up trading Jermaine Osako for Turbo, which did end pretty badly for me. But yeah, there was a lot of guys last year that I picked that in March people said, what the fuck? Why would you do that? And I think my team is a little bit more consistent this year. But if I can just get one of Sia Wong, Kai Pearce-Paul, or Morgan Smithies to jump out of the ground and be really good, I think I've got one hell of a footy side on my hands here, one hell of a Supercoach side.
I love it. I genuinely am excited about some of those picks, but like you said, within a couple of weeks it could look quite different.
Which of my picks, which one do you love the most? Which one do you hate the most? I want raw honesty.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say Josh Curran is my favourite pick.
Ooh, okay.
Now, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Curran is a player I've always picked in any kind of fantasy equivalent game that I've played. I'll always pick Josh Curran because he's not the most popular pick, but I love his consistency. And for me, he's a workhorse. He's always in there doing everything he can. So he gets the minutes and he'll get whatever points are available to him. So for that reason, I really, really like him. I also rate that Drinky was your first pick. I think, once again, like a great pod in that sense. And my least favourite pick.
Can I guess?
Yes.
Least favourite pick. I reckon you will go with, Lomax or Hutcho.
So Lomax, for me, it's just that difficulty of it being a Dragons player and not knowing what he's going to be doing for that side. So, yeah, to an extent is that one. But I actually think my least favourite pick is Carl Feldt.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but he's picked 17, so it's sort of like...
It's a bit
I hate
anyway.
the Carl Feldt pick too, let's be honest here. Yeah. But yeah, I think with Carl Feldt as well, that if Valame or Murray Tuolangi are injured, he comes in. So if anything happens to any of their outside backs, he comes into the side as well. So once again, if I didn't have Scott Drinkwater, I wouldn't go near Carl Feldt with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
But that's Supercoach draft. If you get given lemons, you got to make lemonade sometimes, and we're making Carl Feldt lemonade this year. So it's the first time I've ever owned him, and I've taken a lot of pride throughout my career not owning him. It did give me a little giggle as we're drafting, Cat. We've got white butcher's paper along all the windows in this room, and as you pick a player, you write it on the board that you've picked them. We do this so that if the system completely shits itself, we've got it all, which came in handy last year. The system did shit itself. We had to start again, so we had them all, thank God, which I'd highly advise everyone should do at home. But and we take turns writing them up. So like generally, like if I pick a guy and then my next pick's 14 picks away, I'll jump up and I'll write a few on. Then I'll give the pen to someone else like that. Anyway, when I drafted Sam Hughes, my last pick, I went to write him on my board, and I got up there, and the guy that had written Carl Feldt for me had read Feldt, then in brackets written D's nuts. I thought, that almost makes it all worthwhile. That's good. That's really good gear. I was very upset with myself for drafting Carl Feldt, and I got up there and thought, maybe it's all worthwhile.
It was worth it after all.
Well worth it.
It was.
But yeah, that's draft day 2024. Very happy with the team. We'll give you pretty regular updates. I'm planning, Kat, I haven't told you this yet, and this is probably the dribbliest stupid thing we can do, but we're going to have like a press conference each week for my Supercoach draft team this year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you're in for it. So brace yourself for that.
I cannot wait. And I assume I am running the press conference.
Yeah, so unfortunately for you, not only is there now 17 NRL teams you need to follow, but there's an 18th Supercoach draft team you need to follow. I also thought it was a very good omen drafting Zach Lomax, my team name this year in draft. You are a Simpson fan, right? Mm-hmm. Do you remember when Marge Simpson gets really stressed and she needs to go away for a couple of days? Do you remember where she went?
No.
Rancho Relaxo. So my team this year, Rancho Relomaxo is the team name. So I thought it was a good omen to get Lomax as well.
Yeah. No, look, he's going to be an interesting pick regardless. And
He's going to frustrate me a lot.
Yeah. But that's part of the fun, right?
Yes. Now, shout out to those 17 players that have been selected. Congratulations. It is going to be a fun year. But I am going to be pretty brutally honest in our press conferences each week. So,
okay.
Iron sharpens iron. I'm looking for a good draft season this year. And Kat, I normally take my premiership rings down on the weekend away, and I left them at home this year to make a statement that we're all about the next ring.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've won a comp.
How long?
Well, I won my first season. I lost the grand final the year after. Then I won the next season. So I had 2 rings in 3 years, and I haven't won since. So it's been about 7 years. I've lost 4 grand finals in that time. So I've got close, but no cigar. And yeah, so I need to get one. I did tell my now wife a couple of years ago that she doesn't get a ring until I get another one, because ever since being with her, I haven't won one. So I'm not pointing fingers. But anyway, I folded like wet origami on that and now have that ring. So I think this is the year.
I would ask you which ring is more special to you,
Please don't.
I want you to remain happily married.
Yes,
so.
yeah, good shout.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us once again. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. We are absolutely flying through YouTube subscribers, which is really good to see. We've got plenty of Supercoach content coming this year. We're going to have, I believe, a Patreon for Supercoach as well that you'll get more details about over the next few weeks. It'll be pretty cheap, and you'll be getting some stats and some numbers that you can't get anywhere else. So very, very excited for that. You'll also get my team reveals every single week. I'll be opening the doors to my trades and everything. It'll be really, really exciting. So keep an eye out for that. Anything from you?
No,
Kathmandu, or we good?
Kathmandu. Very nice. I hope that there's a new nickname every.
Probably won't be.
Okay.
I'm running short already. Doing my best though. Leave it with me.
Leave your best nickname in the comments.
Yeah. Make sure you go follow Kat on Instagram at @KatHaddad and all your social medias, and we will see you next time on the Rugby League Guru Podcast.